Let's talk about performance. Here, I would like you to ask yourself, really ask yourself, when do you usually think about performance? As an independent consultant, I support various companies with performance testing, and after a certain meeting, I called Tomasz because we quite often talk about professional topics and asked him how you do this, how do you plan? Hi.
Hi.
First of all, we would like to thank the organizers for the invitation and their trust. My name is Lendzion-Barszcz and next to me is sitting Tomasz Konieczny. It is an online event, so we can't see you, but we know from the organizers that we have QAs, devs, managers and even Scrum Masters among us.
Problems we will discuss during this talk affect all of these groups. I mean, people working on software development in general.
Yep, and now a little bit about us. I am a tester and professional trainer. Currently I'm working at SIA Poland as test development engineer, and I am not afraid of playing with assembler.
And I currently work as a senior QA engineer at Raw, a New York-based startup, and I'm mainly responsible for test architecture and infrastructure.
Enough about us. Let's get to the right part of the presentation. Let's talk about performance. Here I would like you to ask yourself, really ask yourself, when do you usually think about performance? As an independent consultant, I support various companies with performance testing, and after a certain meeting I called Tomasz because we quite often talk about professional topics and asked him how you do this, how do you plan and perform performance tests in your company, who is responsible for that, and tell me, please tell me, when do you start to think about it?
And during this conversation we realized we have exactly the same thoughts. So that's why we decided to create this talk.
Yep. We all know how important prevention is in our profession.
And we know how high the awareness is about performance tests. We prepare for different marketing campaigns, release of new product, code refactoring, or even configuration changes.
Yep. This is how it always looks like, right? Unfortunately, this is usually not the case.
Reality?
Who the heck needs it?
It works fine, maybe next sprint.
Yeah.
In real life, people don't realize how important it is unless something fails. So they start thinking more about it when something stops working or the application is extremely slow because of increased user load.
Yep, or by the very last minute, tomorrow morning, we need to know if our app can handle the traffic related to the marketing campaign, but surprise, surprise, no one informed the IT department soon enough.
Or manager walks into the room full of testers. You all have ISTQB certificates. You should know just everything about performance tests.
So you know how to do it, right? This example is taken from real life. So, let's start planning the test. We certainly have a lot of time to think about what we need and from who we need it. We talk with the business to set the goals, we find out what's the value of SLA. Then we plan with the technical team how to do it, what we need to know technically about the project. We can start designing the test and select the appropriate data and tools.
Yeah, right. And what does it look like in real life? Well, haven't you done it yet? Isn't it finished yet?
Why so slow?
Yeah, and we don't have enough time to do the proper test planning, choosing the best or appropriate technology, or thinking about anything else. We just need this test right now. I mean, the need to have them also appeared suddenly. So let's use something that we already know, like for example JMeter. Let's create a few basic tests. Maybe it will help us get some feedback about the application's performance. Unfortunately, I saw something like this in a few different projects in the past.
Good old times, right? But to be honest, just to be sure, JMeter is not a bad tool. But you have to know that we have a lot of other options. Now, let's move on to the real scenarios we face at our job. For the purpose of the presentation, we have selected 3 cases representing individual areas of performance. We will discuss what we should focus on for each of them to get the technical and business specification. By the way, Tomek, do you know how much time the website should load according to the UX team to, or for, a good user experience?
Max 2 seconds.
Yep.
Okay, let's start by describing the first example.
Here, imagine a website with a long loading time and very poor responsiveness. For example, after searching for specific results, the table loads very slowly. Users will complain about the very slow loading of the first page.
Cooperation with business should be really simple here. I mean, what we should ask about, what we should check to gather technical requirements. We should definitely clarify what is too long page load time. For example, for some people, even 10 seconds would be fine. For others, 1 second may be too long. We can start with some UX reports that are widely available on the internet. Based on them, the acceptable loading time for most of the users is about 2 seconds. In most cases, it also shouldn't be a problem from the technical perspective. So it can be a great starting point for further analysis to define more precise requirements. But what about the technical part? Well, we can start with the page profiling to gather some initial info about its behavior. Slow first page load time can suggest us some problems with front-end application. Maybe some JS scripts are too heavy and not optimized, and the download of the dependencies takes too much time.
Perhaps pictures are too large and not compressed enough.
Or maybe it's rendering problem. And the last but not least, network. It can also be a problem here.
Yep, most of it can be checked using developer tools available in every popular browser, famous F12, or dedicated tools like PageSpeed Insights. And what about the network? Nowadays we have the ability to simulate cellular connections, so why not take advantage of it?
In the case of poor responsiveness, we can also check API requests.
Yep, trigger fact. I once had the situation in which by entering letters into the text field, this field was used to search for the information, requests were sent each and every time. I mean, I click on the field, request sent. I enter the letter, request sent. I deleted something, you know the drill, so it's quite worth to check it, even if we want to check only front-end. Yep. We spoke about it, about the front-end. Now it's time for backend and API, my favorite area. Question time. This request in the presentation refers to REST, SOAP, or maybe to something different? Well, the obvious answer is it depends, because remember that right now we have something like GraphQL. In this case, in this example, we are dealing with an integration system, so we do not have a graphical interface, but only API. As an example, we can take hotel booking management systems where we have prices from a lot of hotels.
And basically, during one of the marketing campaigns, basically room price discounts, the load significantly increased. So clients started to complain about response times, and just a moment later, the application completely stopped working. What's the business problem here? The application wasn't able to handle the increased load.
Yep, and where should we start? In the beginning, we have to remember that this application is on production, so we can ask about the production logs. They're supposed to have it. We should examine them to see how the API is used, what requests are available, and in what number. Check the cost of specific request, number of requests per response time, times response time, and identify those that may be bottlenecks or block our system, for example our memory. Looking at the logs, we should review what happened shortly before the campaign, during, and when the system was off.
Because sometimes any additional tests just won't be needed. I mean, logs can provide us everything that we need. And if we don't have them, we should try to imitate user flow. We should talk with business people about the most common usage patterns and how users use the application. For example, how many searches do they make before doing the final reservation? And what else do we need?
From the technical point of view, we don't know what the infrastructure looks like. Additionally, what is the allowed response time? Is this app only for specific users? Maybe only for logged? Are there any external factors such as other marketing campaigns that may affect the number of bookings? Conducting performance tests, we should ask really a lot of questions. The last example, this time we will focus on infrastructure, his favorite area. The application we will discuss allows you to sell tickets for concerts. The client wants to change the business profile and also start organizing larger events. It means selling more tickets. In addition to that, he doesn't want to prepare for specific events each and every time. It's also supposed to work at the lowest possible cost.
So we should start with analyzing current application and setup. They currently have static infrastructure. We definitely should consider migration to cloud and auto-scaling. This will help to achieve high availability, keeping costs low at the same time. We also need some analysis of the application, if it will be possible to scale it both horizontally and vertically, and maybe we can go with several services.
Remember that these tests must give us specific information to verify whether we can go in this direction.
We also need to learn usage patterns, how users use the application. It's possible to get tons of useful info from logs. In the end, user flow shouldn't change here. There is also one more thing we should ask about. Do they have any predictions about marketing campaigns? I mean, efficiency in case of bigger events.
Another thing, scaling lag. What slower time, or in extreme case, the unavailable system, is acceptable? Will, for example, a few minutes be okay?
No, 0. I mean, maybe you should consider other options. Unfortunately, as always, even if we thought about just everything, we may not predict users' creativity.
Yep, Black Friday is coming to town, right? So I would like to tell you one story. One store hired not one, but 2 independent companies to do performance testing 1 month or 2 months before Black Friday. But either way, the website broke anyway. Why? Because of the users who added products to the cart just before midnight, you know what it's next, and refreshed the cart after midnight. It resulted in price updates. They haven't thought about such scenario.
Or different example, an unexpected cancellation of the reservation. I mean, it's quite popular nowadays. The least used functionality suddenly became one of the most popular.
Yeah, we have a lot of examples, right in real life today. No one would predict this, but do you think it's really impossible to do this?
There are a few modern approaches that can help us here. I mean, they affect the whole development process in general, but we will describe you briefly how to use them for performance purposes. Everyone knows these words, but most people use them just as the buzzwords.
Unfortunately, they aren't widely used yet, in real life, especially for performance purposes. For example, shift left, test early and often. Why not to use continuous performance testing? We can integrate performance tests in CI/CD pipeline and execute them along with functional and unit tests. It will allow us to discover performance degradation immediately. Additionally, we can even use existing unit tests with the very low usage of the hardware for performance purposes, for example with zero-code DDD library.
Yeah, but we also love testing on production, don't we? Well, that's the goal of shift-right approach. Post-production monitoring of just everything, I mean applications, infrastructure, users, to just detect the possible problems immediately. Also testing on users, so A/B tests, feature flags, or maybe canary deployments. Fairly safe release process, so ability to roll back changes in case of any problems or failures. In real life, both shift-left and shift-right approaches will be connected. Shift-right feedback may be valuable as shift-left input.
So we can predict unpredictable, just testing early.
And late at the same time.
To sum up, we have shown you 3 isolated cases to clarify these specific problems. In real life, everything would be more connected. So we would like to leave you with few thoughts. First one, we shouldn't start implementation without a clear and precisely defined goal.
We should look at the big picture instead of thinking only about our area of expertise. So basically everything is somehow connected and there may be some dependencies. It also means continuous improvement is crucial. We have to constantly improve not only our skills but also knowledge.
And last but not least, everything that's needed may be already available. Look at the production logs.
And in the end, I would like to thank you, Emilia, for co-speaking during this talk. And thanks for attendees for hearing us out, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Alrighty, what a fantastic presentation. Really great, really great. Good to know. Um, okay, let's start with our Q&A session. Let's see if we have any questions. One question might be, what skill sets are needed for performance tests and performance audits?
Okay, so maybe oh, I think that I have double surrounding. Okay, so yeah, we will not hear Daniel, so sorry for that, but we will mute ourselves after we respond the answer. So in the beginning, I think that we should be open-minded to look at the same side, but from different perspectives. We should have, even as a testers, right, curiosity, a lot of them, and ask a lot of questions. And have some basic of API of how HTTP works, how HTTPS works, REST, SOAP, GraphQL, right?
Yeah, at least if we are speaking about performance of applications. And also from the technical perspective, I think that knowledge about infrastructure is really useful. So maybe some cloud services, how they work, and also architecture of the application, how to profile it properly, how it's working, and the general architecture may be really useful here.
Yeah, because being an engineer of performance engineer, we have to know a lot of different areas, not only testing side. Yep.
Okay, great, awesome. Thank you for that. I think we have one more question. Never too much tests. How to determine until what moment to test our applications?
Yeah, so it's really dependent on the specific project. I mean, also on the
budget time.
Yeah, budget time. So as usual, it's quite similar for performance tests than kinds of other standard ones, maybe. But definitely some critical issues should be resolved, and the others are just rated on the budget, timeline, and priorities.
Yep. To be honest, it's always also about the maintenance of the test, because if we could handle a lot of tests, why not do that? We will have, a more code coverage and etc. So it's up to you and your budget and time.
Okay, great. And we have one more question. What other tools other than JMeter are you recommended?
Okay, so in the beginning, I think that we have to think about the layers of the testing. If we are talking about the API testing, JMeter, Gatling, Locust.io. Locust.io is a library for Python developers.
Yeah, but Locust is a bit simplified. So for some simple cases, it's a very great tool. But for the other ones, like maybe Gatling or JMeter, are great. But it's all about asking the question if we really need some performance tests, because as we mentioned during presentation, sometimes, for example, production logs will be sufficient. So we don't even need any tests.
Yeah, but if we need these tools, so talking about the integration, the API layer is the tools, the open source tools, which we already told. For example, unit tests for the lower layers of the test, zero code TDD, open JDK, Java machine something, JMH, because I'm a Java lover, so I can tell you only about it. I don't know if you know something for the lowest level of layers.
Yeah, there are also some libraries for log analysis to profile directly from logs, so we don't have to write anything custom. We just can use the standard tools that are available, or profilers that are attached to like web servers, for example.
Additionally, we can always use the audit tab from developer tools.
Yeah, it may also be really useful for some basic profiling and some basic discovery.
Yep, famous F12, right?
Okay, great, awesome. maybe we could bend the rules a little bit more. I think we have 2 more questions. If you have some time, we could try asking. One question, another one had asked, when would you suggest to test performance using front-end side instead of hitting REST endpoints?
Yeah, so again, it's really depending on the project, on specific needs. But in general, front-end profiling may be useful to do some like end-to-end performance tests to validate the whole user flow based on performance metrics, because otherwise we'll be just testing it in isolation. I mean, we'll be simulating some user actions, so we'll be setting some different proportions of the requests to simulate the user flow, but it's also possible to provide it on the front-end side, so we'll be tracking the whole infrastructure instead of some specific services for them, for example.
Yep, and this is the quickest way of doing it, because think about it. If you have a already front end, right, you can always run the audits tab from developer tools, and you don't have to know business profile of this website, right? But using API, you have to know a lot of things before you start implementing these tests.
Yeah, so that's why they may be really great for the first step of performance tests.
Yep.
So do some basic discovery, and then we will get some info about, for example, endpoints that should be provided in a more detailed way.
Yep. Additionally, for example, right now, these days, we have 2 teams, right? Front-end and back-end teams. So if back-end teams did a really good job and front-end team, they did something, why not to check it? Just to be sure, right?
Yeah, especially that there may be some front-end specific problems, like, for example, heavy libraries, or maybe some problems with infrastructure that's used for hosting static files. It's also possible.
Yep, rendering images and etc.
Yeah, it may be not optimized. So there may be also problems not related to both front-end and back-end applications. It may be just infrastructure sometimes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that response. And maybe one last question we could fit in. Where and how do you define the acceptance criteria for performance tests in Agile?
This is a very good question, especially when we are talking about different layers of the testing, right? Right now, maybe not right now, because no, I cannot say about my current projects, of course, so this will be an imaginary project. Sometimes we have to think deeper than normally, and we can have a very good specialist, and we can define the acceptance criteria. Where and how? Oh, sorry, maybe I understand in the wrong way question. Where and how? Where? User stories. Why not? We have user stories, right? How? I think that we have to see it together with the business team, developers team, and, for example, product owner.
Maybe also infrastructure part.
Yeah,
because it's also really rated. There may be some blockers from, for example, infrastructure part. Maybe some scaling limitations or the technologies that were used.
Yeah.
So I would say that that would be the best to define it in cooperation with all of the people that may be involved here. So again, developers, both front-end and back-end, QAs, business people, infrastructure people.
Yeah, or maybe create a team.
Yeah, so that would be
responsible for performance tests.
Yeah, because every input may be valuable here.
Yep.
These problems aren't just isolated to a specific area of expertise, so that's why we need to cooperate to be able to achieve the specific goals or to define them in the first place.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for very full and rich answers. Those are also very excellent questions from our viewers. So thank you to our viewers as well. And I think those are all the questions we have for today. So once again, thank you, Amelia and Tomasz, for joining us today. We really liked your presentation. So once again, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us.